What's up, guys? Welcome to Motocross Action's 2022 250 4-stroke shootout. Behind me here, I have all 7 of the major 250 motocross bikes. In this video, we're going to be breaking down the pros and cons of each specific bike and ranking them from 7th to 1st as which bike we like the least and which bike we like the most. We've been spending a lot of time racing, riding, braking, testing, and building these bikes back up to what they are now. We know a lot about these bikes, the ins and outs on them, so let's get into the details in our 250 shootout video. Our job at MXA is to find the truths and untruths about every bike that rolls down the showroom floor. To do this, we have to put ourselves in your shoes, meaning that we have to live with the race machine of your choice as you would. We have to ride it, work on it, break it, maintain it, and find the best settings that suit your needs. The difference between MXA and any other rider buying a new bike is that the process is sped up tenfold by having an army of experienced test riders ranging in skill level, age, and size who constantly ride and race these bikes year-round. Each bike comes with its own set of challenges, and at times, it feels like we're Sherlock Holmes looking for clues, conducting interrogations, examining records, gathering evidence, and forming theories that we put to the test. The MXA detective team tries to disprove all unreliable theories. Perhaps this is why our tests can be so different from others. We are constantly trying to disprove the things that everyone thinks they know about a given machine. The opinions you have heard about a bike change when you live with it and compare it on a daily basis to its competition. We lived with these 7 bikes for many months and many races and have disproven many theories. So without further ado, let's get into our 2022 250 shootout results, starting with 7th place. Finishing in 7th place is the Suzuki RMZ250. Why should the Suzuki RMZ250 have won this shootout? It's funny how many of our newbie testers go out on the RMZ250 and come back telling us that it's the best bike in our arsenal. We understand what they're feeling, but they don't realize the truth. What makes the $7,899 RMZ250 feel so good is that they can push it further than any other bike. The low horsepower makes the Suzuki a fun bike to ride. The metered power is smooth and it gets moving fast. Riders feel good on the yellow machine, and that is something worth noting. The RMZ250 is a turn at all cost machine as well. It turns when and how you want it to. It is a friendly bike that everyone is surprised with when they first start riding it. So why should the RMZ250 lose this shootout? The surprise I just mentioned turns to shock when they race it. In a race, those newbies who said that they loved the RMZ250 got passed by green, white, red, blue, and orange bikes like they were standing still. The 2022 RMZ250 isn't competitive or relevant nowadays. It doesn't have the luxury of electric starting, it doesn't have a hydraulic clutch, and it has forks that are supercross stiff. It is the slowest bike across the power spectrum, save for the Kawasaki KX250 at 7,000 RPM, and with only 39.3 peak horsepower, it gives up 5 horsepower to the Husky FC250. The RMZ250 is a great starter bike, however, the forks are made for a supercross racer, and the fork setting doesn't make any sense on a 250, let alone one that is best suited to entry-level riders. So what do we really think about the RMZ250? It's a viable package for riders moving up from a mini cycle. It's an affordable, entry-level bike for a guy who doesn't have the skill or money to manage a 44 horsepower rocket ship. but it isn't a competitive race bike. To bring it up to snuff with the KTM, Husky, or Yamaha would cost $5,000 in engine mods alone. Anyone who buys a 2022 RMZ250 has to be content with the power it makes, because hopping it up is money wasted. For only $200 more than the RMZ250, you could be riding a vastly superior 2022 Honda CRF250. Coming in 6th place is the 2022 Kawasaki KX250. So why should the KX250 win this shootout? Of all the 250cc motocross bikes that have tried to chase down KTM's dominance at high RPM, only the Kawasaki KX250 has been successful. At $8,399, the 2022 KX250 doesn't beat the Austrian triplets at peak, but it offers the most horsepower in its class from 9,000 to 12,000 RPM. It just gets edged out by the Husky in the final couple hundred revs when it peaks at 44.2 horsepower and the Husqvarna slips by at 44.3. So just 1/10 of a horsepower up is the Husqvarna, but we don't hold that against the KX250 engine because this is the best pro bike engine in our book. It is so strong from the mid-range on up that if you have the talent to hold this engine wide open, the KX250 will take you to the top with enough over rev to make a difference. So why should the KX250 lose this shootout? It should lose for 3 big reasons. First, low-end power. As strong as the KX250 is from the middle to the top, the KX ranks 6th out of 7 in low-end power. How weak is the KX250 at low RPM? It gives up 3 horsepower at 6,000 RPM, 2.5 horsepower at 7,000 RPM, and a full horsepower at 8,000 RPM to the Honda CRF250. Second, the Kayaba forks. Kawasaki lost its way with the forks on this bike, and the problem lies in the forks mid-stroke damping. The valving ramps up too fast, too soon, and too much in the middle to the bottom of the stroke, making the forks very harsh. The third reason is cornering. The biggest contributor to the KX250's 6th place finish in MXA Shootout is its poor handling. When Kawasaki decided to use the KX450 frame with the 2022 KX250, they didn't take into account that the smaller KX250 engine would have to be pushed way back in the frame cradle to fit with that 450 frame. For the life of us, we couldn't get the KX250 to turn. There isn't enough weight on the front wheel to get the front end to bite, and in the end, MXA test riders started moving forward on the seat, almost onto the gas gap, just to get the KX250 to turn. For most test riders, this was a deal breaker. So what do we really think about this bike? Maybe we could live with the total lack of usable low-end power by gearing it down, carrying more speed into the corners, or downshifting for extra drive, but we could not find a handling option short of sitting on the gas tank to get the KX250 to turn. It pushed on every corner exit. This is a shame because the 2022 KX250 engine is the only Japanese-made engine that can run head-to-head with the Austrian triplets at high RPM. Coming in 5th place is the 2022 Honda CRF250. So why should the CRF250 win this shootout? The CRF250 has been stuck in a rough patch for a long time now, and Honda has been trying all kinds of different approaches to get the 250 to perform. The problem for Honda was that what they threw at the CRF250 over the last 4 years did not stick. Each new version of this bike was a dud. So for 2022, the all-new Honda is a breath of fresh air. Gone are the twice pipes, the weak sister high RPM power band, and the chunky 228-pound dry weight. For $8,099, the all-new CRF250 is quick at the first crack of the throttle, and it gets moving faster and sooner than any 250 in this shootout, and that fact is shown on the dyno. From 6,000 to 8,000 RPM, this bike is the king of horsepower. It does start to lose steam after $8 grand, but that initial thrust off idle gets the CRF moving with enough authority that the drop in horsepower isn't a deal breaker as the RPMs continue to climb. The CRF 250 power band is the exact opposite of what this bike had in 2021. Last year's CRF 250 was fat and sluggish. Not only does the 2022 feel more powerful than it really is, the shift ratios between gears help magnify the minuscule power above 11,000 RPM. Best of all, every MXA test rider loved the CRF 250's ergonomics. Everything is right where it's supposed to be. So why should the CRF 250 lose this shootout? The worst part of the Honda 250 is the forks. They are harsh and stiff, even for our heaviest riders. Last year, the CRF 250 was one of the best suspended bikes in the class, and we don't know how they got so far off the mark when they made the new bike. Aside from the forks, if Honda wants a chance at winning the 2022 MXA 254-stroke shootout, it needs to offer a broader power band. We love what they did on the bottom end, but it can't compete with the Austrian high revers on top. So what do we really think about this bike? It has a lot of potential. The CRF 250 has shed a significant amount of weight from last year, and now it sits at 219 pounds, which is tied with the Husky FC250 for the lightest 250 in the class. It still doesn't have a hydraulic clutch, even though Honda has one on the CRF 450. Luckily, Honda's new 9-plate clutch is one of the best cable-operated units in the class. Every MXA test rider said that he would pick the CRF 250 engine over the YZ250F's engine. As for now, we'll have to wait until Honda specs forks the MXA test riders would pick over the YZ250 forks, and there's always next year. Coming in fourth place is the 2022 GASGAS MC250F. So why should the GASGAS win this shootout? At $8,699, the GASGAS MC250F is a no-nonsense machine. It offers the meat and potatoes of the Husky and KTM 250s without the add-ons. You may not get the KTM map switch, hour meter, or CNC machine triple clamps, but it is a bargain bike without becoming the red-headed stepchild of its Austrian elders. Offering the same powerful engine, best-in-class Brembo hydraulics, absorbent chromoly chassis, and premium WP suspension, all at a $700 discount, is icing on the cake. The GASGAS rolls off the assembly line as a stripped-down chassis and engine with a stripped-down price. But the performance magic is all there. GASGAS just leaves it up to you to bring it out. The GASGAS should win this shootout for its simplicity of design and because it brings KTM's technological leaps to regular racers at a price within $200 of the Yamaha YZ250F. We don't need any more doodads, we need functionality. And this is what the MC250F embodies. So why should the GASGAS lose this shootout? The MC250F should lose this shootout because the powers that be in Austria made it slower than its brothers with a different head pipe, closed off airbox, and only one map, no traction control, and no launch control. We don't like this, but it would be an even bigger mistake if the KTM group made the least expensive of the 3 Austrian models start winning shootouts, and that would be bad for business. Many of our vet and novice riders actually prefer the softer WP suspension, but for faster riders, it dives under braking and bottoms on big hits. This suspension setup will be perfect for the majority of local riders, but for actual fast racers, the light fork valving and the 42Nm rear shock spring are too soft. Additionally, the forged triple clamps flex more than MXA test riders would like, giving the front end a vague feeling at turn-in. So what do we really think about the GASGAS? This bike makes sense for people who want the KTM 250 SXF package without the high price tag. It is a proven motorcycle that is designed to compete head-to-head with the 4 Japanese brands, but not its Austrian counterparts. Coming in third place, the Yamaha YZ250F. Why should the YZ250F win this shootout? MXA fully understands that the $8,499 Yamaha YZ250F is the best bike for many riders. The handling of the YZ250F is dull in comparison to the FC250 and 250SXF. This may sound bad, but for riders who don't want their chassis to be super reactive, this is the bike. When ridden properly and set up right, the YZ250F offers an autopilot style handling. You don't have to worry about oversteer, understeer, the rear end stepping out, or the front end pushing. The YZ250F does nothing great, but it also does nothing wrong. For many lower level riders, this autopilot style setting is a win-win. Hardcore pro racers will wish they could override the YZ250F's autopilot limits. In high stress situations, the Yamaha will take the safe line, while the Austrian trio will effortlessly hop, skip, and jump from line to line. But that chassis quickness comes with the risk of paying penalty for super accuracy. The Yamaha's middle-of-the-road handling is aided immensely by three YZ250F features. First, the YZ250F makes its best power right on the corner exit. Second, we love the Kawasaki SSS forks, and we've loved them for 16 years straight. The suspension soaks up energy from terra firma magnificently. The rear end hooks up like glue, while there's still enough weight on the front end to stick on off-camber corners. Number 3, it tops off with its Wi-Fi tuning system. The Yamaha YZ250F allows riders to choose between different power bands by selecting from Yamaha's pre-programmed maps or by allowing them to make their own maps through Wi-Fi settings on their smartphone. So why should the YZ250F lose this shootout? Well, the Yamaha YZ250F is big, bulky, and heavy. There's no way around it. Ever since Yamaha reversed the 2014 YZ250F engine and moved the airbox up to where the gas tank should be, Yamaha's engineers were put up against the wall. How so? It's been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that Yamaha's front-mounted downdraft intake needs more air volume to allow the engine to make optimum power. The YZ250F needs a much bigger airbox and the ability to fit the right size velocity stack between the twin spar aluminum frame. However, getting more room out of the twin spar frame equipped with a front mounted airbox and a backwards engine has hindered Yamaha's YZ250F engineers for the last 8 years. To top off the bulkiness, the 2022 Yamaha is 10 pounds heavier than the GASGAS, 9 pounds heavier than KTM, and 8 pounds heavier than the Husky and Honda. So what do we really think about the YZ250F? In motion, the 2022 Yamaha is a great bike. It may have shortcomings on paper, but it is built to last. It is spearheaded by the low to mid power band profile that Honda adopted in 2022, and it is the easiest bike for riders of any skill level to ride fast. As a bonus, it is easy to set up because it rolls off the showroom floor, ready to race. Any rider can race this bike. Coming in second place, the 2022 KTM 250SXF. So why should the KTM win this shootout? In a pro-only world, the 2022 250SXF would win this shootout. For $9,399, the KTM 250 is a pro-orientated bike, whereas its biggest competition, the Husky FC250, is better suited to a wider range of riders. We don't think that the powers that be in Austria wanted the Husqvarna to win, and they're probably still scratching their heads as to why it beat out their KTM. Don't get us wrong, the KTM 250SXF is a great bike, highlighted by its snappier throttle response, higher ride height, and firmer feel at speed. Where the 250SXF beats the Husky FC250 is an acceleration from gear to gear. The KTM 250SXF revs through its gears quicker and with more authority. Yes, the engines are identical, but the amount of air coming into them isn't. KTM gets more air thanks to bigger vents in its airbox, making the power band a little bit stronger. So why should this bike lose this shootout? The KTM 250SXF engine is long in the tooth. How long? Bugs Bunny's buck teeth long. We don't like that this power plant was neglected for 6 years, but we still marvel at how this dated engine remained the best in the 250 class in spite of its age. It is as though KTM was egging on the Japanese manufacturers just to give them hope. That hope, however, might be smashed by the all-new big bore and short stroke 2023 KTM 250SXF engine that is coming soon, as we just saw recently they introduced a new factory edition 250. For now, Both the FC250 and 250 SXF from Husky and KTM are significantly more expensive than the highest ranked Japanese 250F, which is the Yamaha YZ250F. For that price, the KTM is 7 pounds lighter and makes more horsepower than the YZ250F in every RPM range, from 6,000 all the way to 13,000 RPM. It has finger follower valve train, sleeker ergonomics, incredible Brembo brakes and clutch. However, Yamaha's most valuable asset is not weight, horsepower, finger followers, ergos, clutch, or brakes. The Yamaha's best aspect is the Kawasaki SSS suspension. So what do we really think about the KTM? The 2022 250 SXF was just a tick off from winning this shootout. You could say that it got beat out because the Husky was better for short riders and vet riders and delivered a broader and more rider-friendly power band. And you'd be right. The KTM 250 SXF engine is the pro version of the Husky FC250. Coming in first place in MXA's 250 shootout is the 2022 Husqvarna FC250. So why should the FC250 win this shootout? It makes undeniable sense that the Husky FC250 would win our shootout for the second year in a row. And why is it undeniable, you ask? Well, 6 of the 7 bikes in this shootout are essentially the exact same bikes as last year, and the only all-new bike is the CRF 250 from Honda. And it would have to be a much better machine to topple last year's winner, and it's not. At $9,499, the FC250 wins this shootout not because it excels in one piece of the puzzle, but because it is the best overall package for the widest range of racers. It's hard to say anything bad about this bike, and if you pick it apart like we have, you'll find that the 2 biggest issues can be fixed with a drill and a $20 countershaft sprocket. This Husky FC250 makes the most horsepower on the dyno at 44.3, while also being in the top 3 of horsepower across the majority of RPM ranges from 6,000 to 13,000 RPM. The Husky is no slouch off the crack of the throttle either. The Austrian engine is the only do-it-all engine in the class, and it comes in the KTM, GASGAS, and Husqvarna. From bottom to middle to top, this engine has it all. The 4 Japanese brands may have good bottom or good top, but not both, and sometimes neither. On top of the potent engine, the FC250 is littered with premium parts like Brembo brakes, electric starting, DID Dirt Star rims, a no tools airbox, bulletproof clutch, braided steel hoses, inline fuel filter, Penkel transmission, twin air filter, hour meter comes stock with the bike, optional throttle cams, ODI grips, Pro Taper handlebars, and new for 2022, they swapped from the Magura clutch hydraulic actuation to Brembo components. This chassis does everything right, and the new generation WP suspension front to rear makes the package even sweeter. However, what really pushed this bike into the winner's circle was the 1-inch lower chassis. This brought the handling and suspension performance to a whole new level. It turned more accurately than the other 6 contenders and was more agile at speed. The WP suspension components on the Husky were very good in the hands of riders who knew how to set them up. So why should the Husky FC250 lose this shootout? The Austrian juggernaut has been purposely detuning the FC250 by closing off the airbox more than on the KTM 250. This cuts down on the FC250's throttle response from low to mid, but it's nothing a drill can't fix by allowing more air into the engine. Another Husky flaw is the super tall gearing that comes standard on the FC250. If you want more bottom end power, just go down 1 tooth on the countershaft sprocket or go up 1 tooth on the rear sprocket, and you'll get the same bottom end grunt you can find on any other bike on the showroom floor. So what do we really think? The Husky FC250 is a bike that the entire MXA wrecking crew can hop on, fire up, and go fast on immediately. It's hard to find anything to complain about on this bike. Thank you guys for tuning in to Motocross Action's 2022 250 4-stroke shootout. If you want to know more information about these individual bikes, you can check our individual bike test videos on our YouTube channel and website, motocrossactionmag.com. Also, check out our 450 shootout on our website and YouTube channel as well. And click the subscribe button on our YouTube channel to stay up to date on our latest videos. We got a lot more coming. Thank you guys. See you in the next one.